Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday, November 18th, 2025 edition of Douglas Now Live. I am Robert Preston Jr. I hope everyone is having a wonderful, wonderful day. Couple of stories I want to get to here. A few of our top stories here at the beginning of the week. I want to lead, as I do sometimes, with sports. We had a couple of important football playoff games in our area over the weekend. Of course, I guess if a team makes the playoffs, they're all important, but you understand what I'm saying. Some are more important and more significant to our local audience than others. And at the outset, it appeared that football season might be over in Douglas and Coffee County around 10 o'clock or so on Friday night when the final seconds ticked off the clock up in Canton, where the Sequoia Chiefs defeated the Coffee Trojans 31-14 in the first round of the state playoffs, ending the Trojan season with a 4-7 record. But that is not the case. There is still more football to be played here in Coffee County, and we will get to that in just a second. But I do want to come back to the Trojans' loss at Sequoia on Friday night. Coffee went into the game as 20-point underdogs, lost by 17. Now, I say this, and what I'm about to say, I will immediately contradict or contradict in just a few minutes. If you're a high school football fan and you don't follow the Georgia High School Football Daily, you should. It's free. It comes out every day during the season. There's a tremendous amount of information in there. One of the things that the High School Football Daily does is it gives projections, margins of victory, that kind of thing, on every game played between Georgia schools. Now, if a Georgia school plays a team from another state, such as we do in Florida, and you get up in North Georgia and some of those schools go up into Tennessee to play, they don't do the same projections because they don't have all the information on those other teams. But if it's Georgia teams playing each other, then they're always at some point during the week, there will be the max, and they use the Maxwell ratings. They will put out the projections and the winners and that kind of thing. And they're pretty accurate. Not always, and we're going to get to that in just a minute. But for the most part, those Maxwell ratings hold true. And we were 20-point underdogs going into the game. We lost by 17. I would consider that within the margin of error. Now, what that means is the game went about like most people would think. If you remember last year in the quarterfinals, we played Sequoia, also up there, same stadium. We played them and we beat them 72-48. That was the game in which Tyrese Woodgett ran for 605 yards, a single game state record. At the time, he also scored something like 7 touchdowns during that game. It was a phenomenal offensive performance. So we turned around and drew Sequoia in the first round this year for a rematch. Again, Sequoia was favored by 20. We had a 14-10 lead going into halftime. But one of the things that has plagued our team all year long is not scoring points in the second half. The most points that we scored in the second half were 14, which we did actually in our last game against Thomas County Central. So against probably the toughest team that we played, we scored the most second half points. But we had several games, this being one of them, where we did not score at all in the second half. And that happened again on Friday night. The Chiefs scored 21 unanswered points and cruised to a 31-14 victory. So the Trojan season ends with a 4-7 record. First time we've lost in the first round of the playoffs since 2021, I believe, when Creekside defeated us 28-18 on the road. That was Coach Robbie Pruitt's last year here in Coffee County. It's also the first time that we finished with a losing record, an overall losing record, since we went 5-6. I believe that was either in 2011, 2012, somewhere in there. It was Tyreek Hill's senior year. We finished with a 5-6 record. We lost in the first round of the playoffs then as well. So it's a little bit of a tough season for the Coffee Trojans this year, but we continued our streak of making the playoffs. I think we made the playoffs now for 12 consecutive years. So we did not break that. But again, I think overall, after winning a state title in 2023 and then going to the semifinals last year, finishing with a losing record and not getting past the first round of the playoffs. Not the way we wanted this season to go. Now, with that said, we've been on a pretty good run since 2022. We went to the quarterfinals in 22, of course, state title in 23, and semifinals last year. We haven't really had a year where we had to rebuild. And at some point, particularly in high school football and in our area where you don't get to recruit, where you don't have kids moving from school to school and program to program, at some point after an extended period of success, you're going to have to rebuild. We did have a young team this year. We didn't have the experience that we've had in years past, and that tends to happen. So on a positive note, some younger kids got to play and got some real-time experience this year, and that's only going to pay off going down the road. So we haven't really had that rebuilding year, but we did this year, and you kind of one of those things where you have to take it in your shorts and then work on it next year. So the Trojans had a good year. It was fun following them. Didn't end the way that we wanted, didn't finish with the record we wanted, but still accomplished a lot of good things and laid a foundation for success moving forward. I mentioned that football is not over yet. The CCA Lady Patriots, in the first year that any team in Coffee County has ever played high school flag football, the Lady Patriots have made the postseason. The top 6 teams in their classification make the playoffs. They slipped in at number 6. And the way flag football works, they play double headers, right? So the first round, and I don't know if this is considered the first round or the first round and the second round. I'm not sure how they do that. But the CCA Lady Patriots potentially have 2 games today up in Macon at Mount DeSale. All right. And they're playing Georgia Christian and Mount DeSale. Both teams they played a couple of weeks ago. Those are the 2 teams that handed them defeats. I think they finished 4-2 on the season. And those 2 teams beat them, although I think Georgia Christian game was a little bit one-sided, but we're very close to Mount DeSale. So hopefully the kids learn some lessons from those 2 defeats and are able to get out of the first round this afternoon. But if they win today against Georgia Christian, they will turn right back around and play Mount DeSale. If they lose, the season's over with. So like all football playoffs, you win, you keep going, you lose, you go to the house. So our CCA Lady Patriots, and I'll tell you what, the numbers that these kids have put up, what they've done, it's really a lot of fun. And I say that a lot, but watching these girls play and following them and seeing the enthusiasm that they have for the game, and of course seeing the school get behind them is really neat. It also gives them an opportunity to compete in a sport that they've never been able to compete in before. You feel kind of bad for some of the seniors who are not going to get an opportunity to play again in a competitive football game after playing just 6, maybe 7 games here. Hopefully a little bit more. Hopefully we can get a couple of games under our belt. But no, football season is not over in Douglas and Coffee County yet. A couple of games this afternoon. Of course, we'll have game reports once that is over with. So congratulations to the Lady Patriots and wish you the best this afternoon in Macon. This is not a local story, but football is still alive and well in Berrien County. And if you're sitting there thinking after the first round of the playoffs, really maybe even after the last game of the season, that we would continue to be talking about the Berrien County Rebels, if you would say that was a surprise, you would be absolutely right. When you think of football powers in South Georgia, Berrien County is not a school that comes to mind. But the Berrien County Rebels slipped into the playoffs. They play, of course, in the lower classification. They're a Class A program. And in those lower classifications, the GHSA has been using a power ranking system for seeding the playoffs now for several years. We're going to that next year in the upper classifications. So Berrien County did not finish with a winning record, much like Coffee, did not finish with a winning record, but they came in as the number 31 ranked team. So the top 32 teams make the playoffs. So they came in at 31 out of 32. They drew the Lamar County Trojans undefeated, number 6 seed up in Barnesville. That's near the Macon area. I mentioned the Maxwell ratings earlier. The Rebels were 32-point underdogs. I said that the Maxwell ratings usually get it right, and they do. Most of the time they do, but every once in a while they don't. And there's always a team or two in the playoffs, and really in each round, especially the first 2 rounds, that will bust the bracket wide open by doing something they're not supposed to do. The Berrien County Rebels did that on Friday night. They do not have a long and storied playoff history. They do not have a history of being championship contenders or anything like that. But I don't think you need to tell them that. They're probably going to ignore you anyway, particularly after what happened on Friday night. And listen to this, they won 7-0. Okay, so 32-point underdogs. They won 7-0. They scored a touchdown on the first play of the game. It was a trick play. First play of the game, they scored a touchdown. Nobody scored the rest of the game. They hung on to win. What it was a double pass and a successful extra point. Cash Perkins took the snap. He was in the shotgun, took the snap, threw a little screen out to Cole Stone, who found Jerry and Brown going down the sides. Now, Brown looked like he was going to block. It was a little bit of a decoy. He looked like he was blocking a little bit, and then he released and took off, and they hit him down the sidelines for a 65-yard touchdown. It was the only score of the game for either team. The Rebels played lights out and on defense and kept the Trojans out of the end zone and came away with one of the unlikeliest playoff wins you will see on Friday night or see from Friday night. The last time that the Berrien County Rebels defeated a top 10 team in their classification, Waycross Bulldogs, 1993. So this team has done something that very few Berrien County teams have done, and it's a lot of fun to see them get the attention. Their head coach had an interview with the Georgia High School Football Daily today, and went over the game, which it didn't take long. 1 touchdown. It doesn't take long to do a game recap, but the Rebels have really done something special here. They get to go to Rabun County this weekend, Friday night. So they're headed up there. That's going to be one of the longest, if not the longest, road trips that any team in Georgia will take in the playoffs. And every once in a while each year, you get some crazy long road trips. Berrien County is going to take off on that as well. They're leaving Friday morning. There were discussions on them leaving Thursday, going up and spending the night, but they've got a charter bus. They're going to leave early Friday morning, go up and try to stop regularly. They've got a school they're going to pay a visit to do some stretching and kind of do some pregame stuff, and then go on up to the stadium. So it's going to be a long day for the Berrien County faithful, and I hope all of those fans down there will make the trip up to Rabun County and cheer for these kids. It's been a phenomenal season. They've done something really special, and it's really neat. So congratulations to the Berrien County Rebels. We wish you the best, and we hope that we get to talk about you next week, because we will. You go up there and win. You will be our team for the rest of the playoffs. So just know, folks in Berrien County, you got fans in Coffee County. We're going to be following you, and we're going to be paying attention to what you do. Go up there to the mountains and show those folks how we play football down here in South Georgia. Wheeler Park reopened. Now, for whatever reason, Wheeler Park caught the public's attention, some good, some bad, in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. The park, when we say completely destroyed, it suffered some tremendous damage, significant damage, right? One of the things that made Wheeler Park were the trees, right? Old growth pine trees, tall, beautiful pine trees throughout the park, a little creek that runs through there. Several different types of trees could be found on that small block that was Wheeler Park. Gone now. Not all of them, but a lot of them are gone. The landscape of Wheeler Park is different. Equipment destroyed, the shelters destroyed, the pickleball courts, the old tennis ball courts converted to pickleball courts, destroyed. A lot of work that had to be done, and maybe one of the reasons that that Wheeler Park touched such a nerve is because there were projects going on to revitalize a couple of other city parks, namely Roundtree Park and Unity Park. The Unity project has since been completed. Roundtree Park remains under construction, and a lot of people felt like that maybe Wheeler Park leapfrogged those parks in terms of getting the work completed. That was not the case. The Wheeler Park and Unity Park projects have been in the pipeline for a long time. Wheeler Park had not. Wheeler Park only got on the radar screen in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. All right. But Unity Park has since been completed. Roundtree Park is on schedule according to all of the plans that were submitted, because when you get grants and do stuff, you got to submit paperwork, right? So Roundtree Park is actually on schedule. Now, the city was able to come in and reopen Wheeler Park. One of the things to keep in mind here is it does not mean that Wheeler Park is completed. It's just been reopened. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done and a lot of work that will be done. But some of the major areas of the park are open. And again, a lot of people concerned about Wheeler Park. It's one of the more popular parks in the city. It's one of the newer parks in terms of equipment and what have you. And where it was located, it was a pretty good jumping off point, centrally located there in the middle of town for folks to be able to go get their kids some food, hang out and play for a little while, and then get them where they needed to go. If you had to go to, other activities, dance, practices, what have you, it was a good spot to hang out and kill some time while you waited on the next stop. So that kind of threw a wrench in people's plans, people's after-school plans when Wheeler Park went down. But yes, the park is now reopened. You still need to be careful in there. There's still going to be work going on, but Wheeler Park is reopened. One of our more controversial topics of late. The city held a meeting last week with apartment owners or apartment managers, rental property managers, that kind of thing, primarily centered around apartments, though. This is a photo we're displaying here from that meeting. And the reason for the meeting is because there has been a noticeable uptick in crime on apartment property. Now, we do a lot of crime stories. We look at a lot of incident reports. There are even reports at times that we request. We decide not to write a story on them for one reason or another. But we look at a lot of incident reports and a lot of arrest reports. And what I have noticed, how many more crimes, some serious violent crimes, are taking place in apartment complexes, or they originate at disputes and what have you, originate in apartment complexes and then spread out to other areas of the community. I have debated getting into this, but I think I'm going to. What people may not realize in Coffee County is how serious our gang problem is. Most people have some type of academic knowledge that there's a gang problem in our community, but you may not know the particulars. You may not know how entrenched it is and how ingrained it is in our community. It's in the school system. It's in our apartment complexes. It's infiltrated our businesses, places where we work. It's a significant problem. Law enforcement doesn't like to talk about it. I don't think they like to talk about it because they don't really know what to do. It's very difficult to eradicate gangs. It's very difficult to deal with these types of issues. I know, and I've mentioned this before, so I'm not giving you any new information, but we have had a gang war of some kind and it ebbs and flows going on since at least 2017. It may predate that, but at least it's 2017. So we're looking at what now, over 8 years, we have had an ongoing gang conflict in our community that has gotten violent. People have died. People have been shot. Been all kinds of issues that have gone on with it. A lot of times, some of these problems originate in apartment complexes, right? People don't want to talk about that. But it has happened that there are gangs that have gotten a stronghold in apartment complexes and use them as hubs for their activity. And when you have gang activity in an area, you have other activity that goes along with it, other criminal behavior, vandalism, property destruction, all kinds of stuff. So what the city has recognized this, and the city wants to meet with and is meeting with the apartment managers and apartment owners and what have you to try to figure out some way to curb some of this stuff. It's not going to be easy. It's going to cost money. It's going to cost money in a couple of different areas. One of the things the city has asked for is for property owners, rental property owners, apartment owners, to put surveillance cameras up. They're expensive. If people know cameras are up, they're going to destroy those cameras. You're going to have to replace them. So that's going to be difficult. There also may be a temporary loss of revenue if you tighten your vetting procedures with prospective renters. You're going to have to do some extra work to make sure that folks who are renting your properties are not involved in criminal activity. And there's some tentacles that go out from there as well. So it's not going to be easy. And it's one of these things, and this is me talking here. Okay, this is my opinion. It's one of these things where I feel like the city's looking at the apartment owners, the property owners, and saying, look, we're going to give you an opportunity to fix this yourself. And if you're not able to, or you're unwilling to, then we're going to step in and do it for you. It's going to take aggressive police work. It's going to take aggressive enforcement. It's not going to be popular. There will be political fallout on both sides. And when I say on both sides, I mean city and county. You may think, well, in the city, the police chief is appointed. He's not elected. So how is there political fallout there? If you get tough on crime in the city, people who do not like it will call the city commissioners. And they will have discussions with the commissioners. If you don't do what we want you to do, we will not vote for you in the next election. Now, when you get onto the county side of things, of course, the sheriff is an elected position, and there's some political ramifications of there as well. However, we have just had a sheriff's election. We're 3 years away from another election. So, theoretically at least, we could get tough on crime for the next couple of years and then have the usual, how shall I say it, pre-election relaxation of enforcement. It happens. We don't need to act like it doesn't. It does happen. But I've seen at the city level how decisions regarding law enforcement, patrolling, that kind of thing, have been issues in actual commission meetings. Now, it goes back a long way. It goes back several mayors and a number of police chiefs. But I've seen it. I've sat in meetings and seen those discussions. All right. So it does happen. But it's not going to be easy because you're going to have to get very, very tough. It's going to take a partnership between law enforcement, the property owners, and the property managers, because a lot of times the managers are not, in most cases, in fact, the managers are not the owners. So you have to have folks on the ground who are working hand in hand with authorities to make sure that this doesn't happen. Now, why did this come about? You may be asking, well, a couple of weeks ago at one of our apartment complexes here in Coffee County, there were 2 shootings that happened within about 5 minutes of each other. They were non-fatal shootings. But as usual, nobody saw anything that happened. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to give any information to the police regarding these incidents. All right? That makes it very difficult. That's where the cameras might come in to help. if you can actually see what goes on. So, but the cameras are expensive, and I've seen some discussions where people say, well, look, the city needs to pay for these cameras. I don't know about that. Maybe there's some ways to work that out. Again, that's where that partnership would come in. But this is something that you're going to hear quite a bit about moving forward, because I can detect a little bit of frustration from the city with regard to the amount of crime that's taking place in apartment buildings and on apartment complex property. One thing you may have noticed on my ring finger here, as we go over our pictures, there we go. A lot of people express concern about my fingernail. It came off Sunday night, so it still looks a little rough, but the bruise that was there, fingernail, is gone. Still a little sensitive. Feels kind of weird. I'm ready for it to toughen up a little bit. But it never, and even what hurt my fingernail that led to it coming off did not hurt that bad. It looked a lot more serious than it was. It looked really bad, but it wasn't particularly painful. As we wrap up here, let's take a look at our tower cam again. Beautiful day outside. We went through some cold weather, here recently, but it warmed up nicely. Kind of that false winter that we all have from time to time. Makes us think it's going to get really cold and stay cold, and it never does. It's actually a little bit cool this morning, but it's going to turn into a very nice day today. Looking back towards Wheeler Park, in fact, we've been having some birds on our tower cam, but none today. None today, but yes, it's a beautiful day in Douglas and Coffee County. And I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in. As always, we appreciate it. We will be back with you on Thursday morning. If there is a breaking story between now and then, we will also meet before then if we need to. One thing I do want to mention, I made a phone call to the elections office yesterday. There have been a lot of discussion about allegations of impropriety all the way around with the Nichols election from 2 weeks ago today, in fact. In order for anything to happen, in order for anything to change in that election, there is a process that goes through the courts, that goes through law enforcement. The elections office will not initiate that. They will not be a part of that. They will investigate it and get involved once that process is started, but it will have to start from citizens or community groups or law enforcement filing some type of complaint or filing some type of charges against those who they believe violated election laws. As of yesterday afternoon at 4:00, that had not happened. If that changes, we will let you know. But right now, there have been no formal challenges in any shape, form, or fashion filed related to the election 2 weeks ago. Remember, Mayor Frost in Nichols won his election by a single vote. And there have been promises and rumors and discussions about various challenges that may or may not take place. Thus far, nothing has been done. Nothing has been filed. If that changes, we will let you know. Once again, thank you for streaming today. We appreciate it. Y'all have a wonderful Tuesday, and we'll see you next time.